Last week I posted a video where I gave some feedback to a newsletter subscriber who sent me his training plan and his progress photos asking for input on what he should do next. And since then I've had dozens more people send along their data asking me for my input. And today we're going to take a look at Chris, who wants to build some muscle and he's curious whether he should cut some more fat before he starts the bulk. He even sent in training footage so we can review his technique and intensity to make sure he's doing the right things to build muscle. I'm really enjoying these, so I left a link in the description box if you want me to roast your plan and give you feedback next. If we've never met before, my name is Matteo. I've lost 50 pounds now twice in my life. I built a bunch of muscle naturally, and I spent the last 8 years coaching folks both in person and online to help them lose fat and build muscle using a simplified approach. So Chris writes in asking whether or not he should cut some more fat. And ultimately, I think it comes down to these 4 things. He wants advice on his ideal body fat percentage. He wants to look at his training plan to make sure he's doing enough total sets to build muscle. And he wants me to evaluate his training intensity and feedback and give him some guidance on how he can do more in the gym without spending more than the 2 hours he's already spending in the gym. So let's jump right into it. Here he is, 5'11", 38. He started the journey May 2025 and he felt like he was skinny fat for a bunch of years. He said that he has this kind of pear-shaped body where he's storing a lot of fat around the midsection and the love handles, and he just never really had the muscle he wanted. Apparently, he did something about it because now we've got some biceps. I can see the shoulders. I can see that pec starting up at the top of the shoulder. He's clearly built some muscle. We are hanging on to some more body fat, but as of today, he's now down to 178 over the last, what would that be, 7 months, and he's made some amazing progress. I even think he's built some muscle along the way. He's looking great, and much similar to my story, this has been a yo-yo where he's lost weight a bunch of times, and this is now his 3rd attempt. He's just curious if he should lose some more fat first before he starts bulking because he does still want more muscle. At 5'11", 178, we're getting into the territory where you're starting to feel a little small. You're starting to be like, these shirts that normally would fit me don't really anymore. And when you tell people that you're dieting or losing fat, they're like, are you sure? Are you okay? You look pretty skinny already. So I totally understand that. And honestly, what I would recommend here for you, Chris, is yeah, I think losing another 5-10 pounds is absolutely fine. I mean, if we zoom in and we take a look at the belly and the lower back and even the arms, man, there's some more fat that could go here. It's not like we're at super shredded dick skin lean levels and the body's gonna start eating its muscle tissue if you try and lose another couple pounds. So I think there's still room for us to recomp and gain a few pounds of muscle as we cut off this next 5 or 10 pounds of fat. I know it's probably leaner and smaller than you want to be, but it's gonna set you up for a nice, long, productive bulk where you don't have to cut early because you get a little bit softer than you want. And I'm not saying we have to gain a ton of fat on the bulk or anything like that, but just know that while you are doing the gaining phase, you're not getting any leaner. So if you're happy with being at this body fat percentage or slightly higher, by all means, go for it. Just know that you're committing to that for 6 months to a year, right? If you want to make some productive gains. It's kind of like building up an emergency fund so you don't have to cash out your investment portfolio when an emergency happens. Oh boy, the market's crashed. Oh, if only I had some cash on hand. Now I got to sell my investments when they're down, right? Same thing with the bulk. Getting lean enough first so that you can have that extended period of eating is really critical. His workout plan looks like this. He's doing 2 workouts per week with a 3rd optional workout to get some additional arm volume in. And I can clearly tell that the bicep stuff's been working. Not only are the poses all bicep focused, but they're growing. They look great, man. You definitely got some bicep size. And across the board, I don't think that volume is a red flag here. And I'm gonna show you why. We could easily go through here and I could tally up all these and be like, oh yeah, camber bar bench plus chest flies plus incline bench, that's 11 sets. The standard recommendation is 6 to 10, and that's great. And here's the tricep, blah, blah, blah. We could totally tally it up and make all these estimations around what could be right compared to, what should be happening. But I think there's a easier way to look at this. Obviously, he's not anywhere outside of the realm of what would be realistic. He's not doing 50 sets per week, and he's also not doing 2 sets per week. So we know, first of all, just at a glance, on the back of a napkin, this makes sense. But here's where things get really interesting. We take a look at his strength progress from the beginning of the year to now. I took a look at his training log, and what we're seeing is his seated overhead press is getting a little bit stronger. His squat getting way stronger. Obviously, legs are growing, right? His curls, he's putting 10 pounds or almost 10 pounds on here with similar reps. So if things are working and you're getting stronger for reps with good technique, the same technique or better, my man, you probably don't need to be doing more. There's just a really quick diminishing returns that come from doing more. The reason I do so many sets in the gym and I train so much is because this is my hobby. I love it. And I want to squeeze the most out of it. And I'm willing to put in the time to do a little bit more for those extra few percentage points of gains. Whereas with you, you're asking me how you can spend less time in the gym. Certainly doing more sets is not the answer to that. If anything, that's gonna make you spend more time in the gym, right? I will say that at a glance, I do think we could do a little bit more. That's my first, just initial gut reaction. But I wanna say that looking at your training footage reveals something more important to me, because it doesn't matter how much training volume we do if the intensity and the technique in the training is lacking, because otherwise we're just building a bigger mountain of lacking training, right? I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm just saying we could get a lot more out of doing fewer sets if those sets are higher quality. So first we've got this kind of preacher curl, concentration curl exercise that you've set up here with this pad. And the first thing I'm seeing here is that we're having a lot of this movement of the upper arm. We're kind of getting this shrugging motion while we're in that bottom position of the curl. You can see you're elevating that shoulder, you're sliding the humerus up that pad, and we're really alleviating a lot of the work that the bicep needs to do when it's in that really stretched out position, which is kind of an ideal spot. So not only does this take load off the bicep when it really needs it the most, where this exercise shines, but also when you have these little cheats in the exercise, it really makes it hard to track your progress honestly. Because how do we know whether that's a 5-pound alleviation of weight with your shrugging movement or 20 pounds? It's really hard to say like, oh yeah, I went from 25 pounds to 35 pounds for 8 reps, because what if you just did a little bit more heaving with that shoulder, right? So a piece of feedback I'll give you here, and this applies to all arm training, but the really critical thing when we're training our triceps and we're training our biceps is to stabilize the upper arm, the humerus, right? Right here, this is your humerus, your upper arm bone, and we want to stabilize that so that we are moving primarily at the elbow joint. And to just show you here, to make it make sense, when we're doing curls, the bicep acts on the elbow, and yes, it acts on the shoulder a little bit too if you want to get nitty gritty, but primarily it acts on the elbow. Same thing when you're doing push downs, it primarily acts on the elbow. And when I start getting my upper arm moving and I get my humerus moving back and forth, now we're getting the lat involved, right? We're getting the shoulder joint moving by using the front delt and the chest instead of using the bicep. So just general rule of thumb, pin that upper arm, and guess what? You are doing the exercise that is specifically designed to stabilize the upper arm. So all you gotta do is just squeeze that pad against your body by driving your tricep into the pad, creating stability, and then curling from here. Now, when you add a rep over a number of weeks, and then you add 5 reps, 10 reps, and 5 pounds to this exercise, you will know that your biceps are getting bigger and not just using a little bit more effective cheating, right? So squeeze that arm into the pad. Squish that cat, as the meme goes. And then the other thing that's gonna help you do is not just get tired here and be like, I'm working and yeah, like my shoulder's getting tired, my arm's getting tired, and I'm giving up, as you kind of do here. Obviously it's a hard rep, you're pushing hard and giving intensity, but I want your bicep to get to the point where it literally can't do any more work. Not just you're getting tired, but when we're pinning it in there and your bicep is just getting to the point where it's grinding, and you can't finish the rep, that is a magical moment for bicep growth, right? So we want to focus more of that work on the target muscle we're trying to train without using as much momentum. And honestly, I watched this cambered bar bench. I'll save you guys the time here, but what he does throughout the set is he starts using a little butt lift, as you can see right there. He starts lifting his butt as the reps get harder, which fundamentally changes the pressing angle of the exercise and almost turns it into a bit of a decline bench where he's stronger, and it makes it easier, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not that decline benching is bad. It's just that changing the exercise within the set clouds our ability to see really clearly if we're making strength progress. Because how do we know whether he lifted the butt 6 inches or 2 inches? How do we know how much that helps? So I'd love to see him just glue the butt to the bench and press from there with a nice standardized technique. You're doing a great job of coming all the way down to the chest. You're controlling the weight, you're pushing hard. This is obviously an appropriate weight for you. Let's just standardize and control the movement just a little bit better, and we can keep the focus on the pecs. There you go, that's the training review. So overall intensity and technique is pretty damn good. It's just that we wanna clean things up. Now let's talk about how we can get more work for you in the gym out of less time. By the way, just a reminder, if you want me to roast your plan, just like I am evaluating his technique and his intensity there, link in the description box, you can submit your data and I'll do this for you as soon as I get around to you. Let's look at this. We've got 4 sets of bench, we've got 4 sets of hack squat, all this stuff. He said it's taking him around 2 hours because he's resting about 4 minutes between sets. So one thing we could do right off the bat is we could just pair up this cambered bar bench with the hack squat. So you bench and then you go hack squat, and then you take a break. So your chest is actually recovering while you're hack squatting, and then you take a rest, and you can bench again, your chest is recovered, and then you can hack squat again because your legs are resting that whole time. So that's one thing you can do. As long as you're not finding that that amount of work is interfering with your ability to actually perform from a cardio standpoint, that's fine. But that really shouldn't be an issue on things like overhead extension and easy bar curls. It's not like your cardio is gonna limit you from doing those back to back, right? So that right off the bat is probably gonna save you 15 or 20 minutes per workout easily. The next thing we could do is we could just split this up over a more frequent training block, right? So if we do workout A and we split that in half, and we do that on Monday, Tuesday, and then we take workout B and we split that in half and we do that on Thursday, Friday, now you've got 4 30-minute workouts instead of 2 2-hour workouts, which generally fits into most people's schedules a little bit better. If that doesn't work with your work or your schedule, I totally understand that, but that's something you could do. The other thing I want to give you, Chris, here is this floater workout, workout C, man, I wouldn't do that. I would just keep it relatively stable. That way you have a really clear idea of what your inputs are, and your outputs will become more reliable as well. You can make more data-driven decisions based on what's working and what's not for you. So if you're all over the place with what you're doing with your steps, your nutrition, your training plan, your results are gonna be all over the place too. How are you gonna know what you're doing is working? So let's just stabilize. If you can only do 2 workouts per week, just do 2. Don't try and do 2 some weeks and then 3 on other weeks. Follow a nice, consistent plan that makes sense with your schedule. If it has to be 2, it can be 2. That's totally fine. If you end up doing less than 10 sets of biceps per week, that's totally fine. Your biceps are probably still gonna grow. So I wouldn't stress too much about hitting a magical set number or having to do enough in that sense. Just follow along with a plan that makes sense for your life that you can stick with. And if you're making progress over time, looking better in the mirror and making strength gains, it's absolutely working and you don't have to stress it beyond that. And if you want to make sure that you are in fact losing fat and not losing muscle while you do this next part of the cut, make sure you watch this video next where I show you 7 signs that what you're doing is working and you're losing all the right kind of weight.